Hey there, good evening. So tonight I have decided to do a reading from the Birkenhall tablets. These tablets are a very interesting record. They follow people, at this point, it's people in northern Germany around 200 AD going and preaching to people in, in Eastern Europe, or what eventually becomes what we refer to as Eastern Europe. This is the Book of Wolfen. Wolfen has been tasked with with reclaiming the Scythians. So, in this chapter 6, Wolfen has arrived. Chapters 3, 4, and 5 are them reading to the Scythians the records of their ancestors. And now this chapter picks up at where basically they leave off. So chapter 6. And it came to pass that after I, Wolfen, had finished reading the record which Aziel had translated by the hand of the Aesir, that many of the bands of the Scythians of the city fell to their knees, for they knew in their hearts that the words which were read had been true. Nevertheless, many more there were that came up in mockery and scorn, and proclaimed among each other that we were liars, and that the many gods they worshipped were indeed gods of war. And there was one woman in particular who was a seeress for the enemy, and I name her not. Yet the seeress stood above the multitude, arrayed in robes of the satyr, and was adorned with a fire urim, great to behold. And I could discern the spirit inside her, a malevolent demon giving her utterance. And as she strode forward with sight given her by the malevolent spirit, she proclaimed this, and all heard. Woe unto you, Wolfen, son of Einar, for you and your band are but liars and thieves, come to steal our wealth and our many records. And I know that your lineage is that of great Henan, who stole from us our records and perverted them for his own ends. Behold, Wolfen, and I see your heart that it is as dark as ash, and your intentions are to cajole and to lead my people into hell, as did your forefathers, for they were men of hell and peace. I proclaim this unto all, for I am a seeress of the goddess Bahalia. Hear me and rejoice, for the words which these men have said are folly, and of the adversary which is that great serpent Jormungand. And it is he and the trickster who desire us to be led into this path, for it is they that know that peace is the path of cowards, and shall lead your souls to hell. Therefore remove them, I command you, for their words are dross. And when the seeress had said these words, a frenzy came over the onlookers, and each man and each woman drew whatever weapon they had to hand. And this they did for the word of the seeress and the malevolent spirit. So it was that despite the many things I had both seen and heard, I began to fear in my heart. Nevertheless, the spirit of the Aesir were with us, and there came a great voice from Athlaz, saying, Fear not, my children, for their words and their bows are as the winter gales unto you, and can cause you no harm. Therefore our hearts were glad. And when the throng pressed forward, the pulse of Thunraz filled our bodies, and Aziel stepped forward, and it was as if lightning flew from his fingers, so great was the power of the Aesir in him. And the throng stopped, dropping their weapons of war. And when this, I stepped forward as one with Hymals, and spoke the mighty words that he placed into my heart, which were these. Behold, as I live, I declare that Thunraz himself strives with us. Therefore stand back, or you will surely feel his wrath. And when this, the lot became sore afraid, For the very power of Thunaraz began to surge around us, and I defied the seeress Bahalia, saying, "You are a fiend and a liar, and are possessed of a malevolent spirit. I command you to cease deceiving this people at once, or justice shall fall upon your head as a mighty hammer." And she defied me, saying, "I am no liar or stranger to this people, Vulfin son of Einar. I did not come to this people proclaiming them wicked and blasphemous things. That was you. Therefore, stand down and leave this people, lest the gods see you as an offender, and cause that we slay you. Now I know the Jotuns of Surt speak through you, for they are liars and deceivers from the beginning." And I withstood her blows, saying, "I am Vulfin, son of Einar, and I am a seer of the Elohim, and they have sent me here to proclaim unto this people the wrongness of their ways and the wickedness of their hearts. And I proclaim the I are not a people of war, that make war on the righteous, but that is Beelzebub, who was a liar from the beginning. It is he who makes war on the righteous." And now, after invoking the unknowable name of Surt and Jormungand as one, the people knew I spoke with the power of Thunaraz, for he alone has the power to invoke the secret name of the wicked, for it had been hidden. And the throng ceased their pressing forward and cast away their weapons of war, fearing to come near us. And I proclaimed with a loud voice, that all may hear, "I am Vulfin, son of Einar, and with me is Aziel, who was a mighty one among you. Even he has seen the foolishness of your ways and forsaken your paths, for it was given of him by the Elohim to know truth from error, and he knows that the gods you worship are the wicked Jotuns of the records, and the records have been changed to suit their needs and the needs of the combinations of Lok. For their needs are that of war, and even now there is war raging all about, even at your doormat, and this is to suit the needs of the rich, for they desire gain, and their ways are murder and plunder, and their magic is the magic of blood and oaths. Therefore I cast the veil covering them away, that you might know them as they are, fiends of the night, who have perverted the true doctrine of Thunaraz for their own ends. And I cast my hand toward the palace of the chieftain of the city, for I knew then by the power of my sight that he watched our works through councils deep. And I proclaimed, "Your chief has abandoned your ways, for he sits in council with your enemies, plotting the overthrow of your great nation. And now he has the kings of the west and the south in meeting, for it is their design to destroy this people. And this chief has consecrated himself as a servant of these far distant nations, that he might be preserved through the destruction of his own people. Slay him not, for righteous judgment must prevail. But go into his quarters, and you will find him conspiring with those that he professes to hate." And there were those that believed on my words, and speedily pressed towards the palace. And no battle broke out between the people and the guards, for the guards were curious about my words. And so it was that the more righteous entered the chambers of the chief. They found many leaders from stranger nations that had been snuck in under the cover of night. And the people of the city were sore angry with the chief, for he had lied to them and proclaimed war against these nations, while yet preserving himself through deals and oaths to their seers and high men. Thus it came to pass that the envoys from those nations, and most especially the chief, were brought before me and my brethren, and knowing in my heart that the Aesir had raised Aziel to lead this people, thus he stepped forward and spoke, saying, "It is as Vulfin has said, for Hymals has given him sight not through flame. And he has yet revealed that our leaders and the kings of foreign nations conspire against us, that they may rule and reign over us. And in this the Aesir have sought to uncover their combinations, which was led by Lok, and this that they might murder and get gain, and rule one above another. And I cry, my people, is this cowardice? And the people cried aloud with one voice, Aye. And Aziel said, Then you must see that this doctrine that has been had among you is folly, for your leaders do not themselves follow it, but go off in cowardice and plot against their own people. Now there are those among you who have felt the movements of Hymals within you. And to you I say, stand with us, for Thunraz is with us, and we are with him. And now you must know that his doctrine is one of peace, for thus we have proclaimed it. And if he is with us, even to the giving of Volfin such great sight as to uncover the veil of the adversary, then surely you must know that his truth is a one of peace. And there came a cry of Aye from the people. Thus it was that flame and lightning descended upon the people of the city, and a great outpouring of rain, which rain baptized the very pure in heart. And lo, there was no fire kindled by man. A great fire arose from the pits of the seer places, insomuch that as many desired received the visions of Hymals. And lo, despite all this, there were those that still sought the ways of war, and they took their chief and those kings of strange nations with them to flee, and where they fled I know not. But so it was, that there was so great an outpouring that amidst the storm the colored bridge appeared in the sky, and the power of Thunraz was all about, and the rain had no power over the great fires as to snuff them out, yet they continued, even being bolstered by the rain, for the rains were the very rains of sanctification, and the fires were the fires of purification. Thus it was that amid all this there came a voice from Athals, and all heard it, and it was the voice of the All-Father and the All-Mother together, and their voice was joined as one, and we record it, and these are their words. Behold, my beloved children, and look to the skies. And we all looked and were sore amazed, for there in the sky was a man, and he was in pattern and scale after ourselves, yet greater, and lightning illuminated his skin, which shone blue like the stars. And the voice of the Elohim spoke, This is my beloved Son, whom your fathers saw and wrote. And he came into the world, but poor and meek and lowly of heart. Yet in his name I am greatly pleased. For through him are all the people of the realms joined together as one. And we beheld the bridge, that it stretched into heaven, and on it came many horses, all in white cloth, which is the armor of peace and not war. And upon them sat the Valkyr of Athals, which being interpreted is servants of her. And they came down and ministered among us, and taught us many things which can neither be read nor written, save by those who dance in the flames. And because I cannot write these things, I cry unto all that read this, Seek the eye, for they can only give utterance of these things, and I would that my posterity should receive them. Nevertheless, as they came down and ministered, Thunraz himself descended upon us, and these were his words. Blessed are you, children of the Aesir, for in no time at all you have forsaken your wicked ways and sought out the ways of peace. Never have I seen such great faith from among your people. Blessed are you, for you will ever walk in the ways of peace. And lo, I have ascended to my Father who is in the skies. I will dwell with you continually, for a people of such great faith cannot be hid behind the wall. Therefore, I will show unto you all things, even as I have done with your fathers before you. And you will know your ancestors, and they shall dwell with you, and you with them. And this great promise I give unto you because of your faith, that inasmuch as they, your seed, accept me as I am, and not as men say, your seed shall have the lightning to be their friend and a guide. Which lightning is mine, says your eye. And this is a great promise also, that there will always be those among your seed who shall walk on the ways of truth and glory, and never shall your seed entirely dwindle in unbelief. Therefore, have comfort, you people of Ai, and rejoice. For inasmuch as you shall stay in my paths, you will ascend unto higher realms as I have, and my Father before me. And then the crowd was greatly amazed, and all fell upon their face. For the glory of Thunraz was much to bear, and in that very moment the fire consumed us entirely, and we were transfigured before the eye. And Hymals took us, and we ascended such as was the promise of the sun. And we sat in councils great, and saw and heard more which cannot be discussed. But suffice it to say that the oath was fulfilled which Thunraz gave to Aziel, son of Philconhital, which said that his seed would never entirely dwindle in unbelief unto destruction. And it came to pass that Thunraz had said these words. He proclaimed Aziel to step forward, and as Aziel did, Thunraz spoke these words. Behold, my children of Svemaz, this man is a righteous man, and he has sought no power, unlike your many chiefs who have been wicked. Therefore let this man be an example before you, for it is necessary that any people should have those whose stewardship is to guide. From now on, let no more of those oaths of old get above you, which come about by and through unbridled ambition. But let your chiefs and priests be like Aziel, who is soft and lowly in heart. Therefore I bless him and consecrate him as a chief and a priest among you. Let him be an example to you. Then Thunraz called forward Teresa, a woman from among the Scythians, and it came to pass that I think I got that wrong. Thesis was sore afraid, but Thunraz smiled at her, a kind smile, and said, Thesis, fear not, for I know your heart, that it has changed, and become soft and pliable like unto mine. So I bid you, come forward. And that she did, and she went and kneeled before her Creator. And so it was that Thunraz said, Arise, Thesessa, and I give you a new name, even the name of the first mother, which is Emalo, which is righteousness in me. For you shall be as a mother and a caretaker unto this people. See that they always walk in proper seder. And Emalo wept before her Creator, and pleaded with him, asking, Aesir, Lord, how is it done? For I was wicked, and full of hatred and lust. And Thunraz said, It is done by the sacrifice which I made in the great garden of life, and upon the tree which is life everlasting. For I have hung there, and was perished for 3 days, and on the morning of the 3rd day arose, taking upon myself the form which you see now. For I am made perfect in the All-Father and Mother, and I am in them, and they are in me. Thus it is that your transgressions have been forgiven you. So it was that Thunraz, eye of thunder and storms, and creator of all, reached down, taking Emalo by the hand, and rose her up. And as he did this, she beheld a multitude of scars upon his body, and again wept and pleaded, Aesir, Lord, what are these that cover your body? Are you not made perfect in eye? Then why are you covered in scars, as if from battle? And Thunraz gave a tender smile, for Emalo had become a tender heart. And he said, These you see are not scars given as if in battle, but are the scars of sacrifice, and sacrifice eternal. And I shall bear them until the day when I shall take up a realm higher, and my parents shall take up a realm higher, and all they that were with me shall take up a realm higher. For I have borne them as I have borne these scars. They are a symbol and a covenant unto you, that I will never abandon you, and that all, both bond and free, male and female, chief and slave, may come unto me. For I have borne them all, and I do not respect the chief as any different than the slave, for I am both chief and slave, servant and master. And so shall all they who join together with me, for we shall all be sealed brothers in the Elohim. And when we shall ascend together as one, taking upon ourselves the glory of the Aesir, then in that day shall my scars which I have borne fade into me, for all will become one and perfect, without spot nor blemish. This is why, my dear Imalo, I carry these scars. For I have borne your transgressions for you, that you may join me. And again, Imalo fell to her knees, weeping, for she knew that she had caused an Aesir to bleed and die. Nevertheless, Thunraz commanded her to stand, and as she did, she grew in confidence and stood before her Maker with zeal in her eyes. Then we all saw and bear witness that mighty Friggo, the all-mother of the earth, descended from her throne and placed her hands upon Imalo's head and proclaimed, "This is my daughter, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. And I seal her unto me forever and ever. And I proclaim you as sealed sister, as I have done with your other mothers before you. Lift up your head, O daughter, and proclaim the truth of peace." And many more things were said which I do not write. And when the eye knew that we were tired, and so left us to rest, although we know they will never abandon us, as is our promise. And thus it was, that after many great things had been both seen and done, that we rested, being no longer able to abide the presence of the eye. Chapter 7. Thus it was that in the following weeks, after all had recovered sufficiently, that a meeting was called together. And I and Farazid were there, as was Imalo, and Aziel, her brother, with her. Then did I bring forward the records which the seers of the Aiyanthi had translated, and Aziel brought forward his records, and we joined them as one, and beheld that they were the continuation of the first, and that the records together stretched from that time that our father Svemaz had left Herethal down until the separation of the people of Henan. And we beheld that we were all related down by a common ancestor, which ancestor was Svemaz, father of Elohimus, the seer, who was named Shining by the Elohim. And we know this record to be true, for surely Svemaz is our first father and our common ancestor. Thus we joined the records together, and great be our eye for it. So it was also that in that great council we discussed the many things of eye which we had been taught, and we knew that his place must soon become a place of great war and death. Thus the conclusion was made that to avoid the wars that would soon befall all of Scythia, the tribe of Aziel, as so they were called, not because of Aziel, brother of Imalo, but because of Aziel, who was their common father. So it was that the people of Aziel left, taking what little possessions they may need, which were few, and they left the lands of their forefathers, and a great exodus began. And while in this journey, I took Thesessa, who was named Imalo, first mother, to wife, and great was my joy unto the eye because of it. Now I would write concerning our travels which we took from the lands of Sith to the lands which were called Birkenhall, the place of birch. For along the way, and nevertheless, the Aesir having been good to us, we faced many hardships. Nevertheless, Elohim be praised for the many miracles which we saw on our journey. Thus I begin my account of the travels of the people of Aziel. So it was that we took our journey into the north and to the west, for so was the direction that the Aesir called us to go. There were those that began to be hard in their hearts because of us, for it was that among those we had been angry and fled from before the righteous of Thunaraz was a man named Asil. Now this Asil was a man of great power, having been called by Surt himself to be a seer and a prophet in his unrighteous kingdom. And this Asil was who it was that had led the chief and the counselors from those foreign nations away into the wilderness. And so it was that he had sought the counsels of a man named Fingal, a man from the north who was a wicked man, and they counseled deep and hid their discussions from the world. Thus it is that I bring this meeting to light. Nevertheless, many things were discussed, including the disposition of the chief and the flight of the people of Asil. Now, this caused a great stir among the inhabitants of the land round about, for they were made aware of our presence and our passings. Also this Fingal was given charge of that band of Scythians, for he was a chief of a band of tribesmen to the north, and Asil having set him up as a leader unto both nations. And the decree was sent out among the lords of Scythia to track our movements and hinder our paths, that we may succumb to destruction. Therefore I wish to proclaim unto all that even in my days the combinations of Lok are strong and mighty. There are many who seek the ambitions of Surt, who is an enemy of the Aesir, and has been fallen, and ever shall be until such time as he is cast out to become a hiss and a byword among the realms, and shall have no power any longer to harass the children of men. This time is not yet, however, and he remains a great enemy, and Jormungand with him. And now, after the decree was sent out from among the council of the tribes, bands, and nations round about, there came many who were desirous to slay us, for Fingal had promised great wealth and power to any who might bring him our corpses. And in this I see that our flight mirrored somewhat that of Henan, our father, for a band too had also set against him to slay him and his people. Nevertheless, the Aesir forestalled the enemy, and Henan was preserved and protected. This thing brought much comfort to me, and I shared the miracle of the Rainbow Bridge with the people of Aziel, and proclaimed the goodness of Thunaraz in defense of my fathers, insomuch that it gave them courage, and they no longer feared the wiles of our adversaries. Yet, as we pressed forward through the lands of the Scythians, so they were called, as the band of righteous no longer considered themselves Scythians. Nevertheless, as we pressed onward, there began to be many sightings upon hills and in the trees of stalking bands of tribesmen who had taken up the cause of Asil. Yet we pushed forward without fear and did not harass the tribesmen, and in this was a great miracle, for truly Thunaraz is an eye of peace. For at this point none attacked us, because we carried no weapons nor armor, save some small bows for food and hunting. Therefore, we had nothing of value or anything which would denote us as enemies, and many left us be. Chapter 8. And it came to pass that at the end of the day we made a camp in a clearing and upon a hill, and this that we might make oblations unto the Aesir. And we built a large ring of stones in the shape of the eye, that we may build a fire, for it was given us to go up in Seder that night. Now I had not yet crafted myself a fire urim, and had used my hand only to see. Nevertheless, that Thesessa, who was named Imalo, came unto me as I prepared my place in the Seder place, and gave unto me a crown of horns, which she had crafted upon our journey. And this fire urim was beautiful, and the craftsmanship was beyond any I had seen. And I thanked her for the gift, and bid her to sit next to me, and she did, as the fire keepers caused a mighty roaring swell to rise. We went up on Seder together, and these are the things which we saw. We both beheld the people of Asiel, that they had become mighty in this land of promise, to that to which we were going. For they had become industrious, and had many large buildings, yet none so grand that they came up in the pride of their hearts, for they were a righteous people, having all things in common among them, as with the children of Henan. And we saw that they had kept many records, which carried with them the visions and the miracles and the prophecies of their forefathers. And we saw that they, like our fathers before, kept a book of remembrances among them, and they were a people of great joy. Now, and according to our vision, there were in the lands round about many wars and desolations, which caused great turmoil in the hearts of the people. And among those people was a church of great stature, strange and mighty to behold, and it proclaimed to carry the gospel of a Savior who had died. Now we knew this Savior to be Thunaraz, who came. Nevertheless, lo, they carried his name. They were a people and a church of great violence and hatred, and they forced the people and the many tribes of the land to believe as they did, or be put to death. And according to our vision, the people of Asiel feared this greatly, and sought the Aesir earnestly for the welfare of their souls. For while this church carried the name of Thunaraz, they were not from him, and sought the subjugation of the whole world. So shall it be. And we saw that when the church came up into the land near about the land of Asiel, the people fled once again, that they might escape the ravages of war, and a people who called Thunaraz of God of War. Now we did not see what shall become of the people of Asiel, but we saw the spreading of this church, that it covered the entire face of the land, and with it many weepings and sorrows, for they could not tolerate any peoples who believed not as they, and they called them foreigners and strangers and simpletons and barbarians. And in this they brought with them what they claimed was civilization proper, and subjected all to it. And I also beheld my own people, the people of Henan, that they too fled the gluttony of this church. And the land became desolate, and many mighty cities were raised in the place of forests and streams, and the people were cut off from the spirits of nature. And with the Aesir and this church brought too a book, which at one time had been pure and holy, like unto our writings. Yet they corrupted this book, removing many of the good truths of Thunaraz and the Aesir, and they taught of consumption and greed, and to use up the good of our mother earth, for their gods had given it them for their sakes. And we saw that there were those of our kin who took upon themselves the oath of old, and took up the cause of death and war, to fight for the defense of the peoples of the land, and for their own gain. Yet at their head were men of the oaths of Lok, which thing is abominable, And they made the gospel of Thunaraz a one of war and death, and went to war against this church, that the old ways might be preserved. And in this manner shall all things upon the land be consumed in greed and war and violence. Nevertheless, we beheld the children of Lehi, that they kept the ways of Thunaraz, despite the hardship. And Aiyanthi came unto us, and proclaimed his name of Lehi, even that kin of Johannes our father, and we proclaimed that this church should also consume his own seed, and that because of it, and the many combinations of the adversary, all would be in commotion. But behold, he spoke, and showed us a seer, and this seer shall be the cause of much restoration. But even his doctrines should be corrupted, and that people should also become a people of war and death. And this shall be a thing of shame, for they will have received the record of the seed of Lehi. And I saw many things also. It is a record of a people destroyed and consumed by war. Nevertheless, they will become a people like this church from the south, and even the seed of Svemaz, for they will come up in war, and they shall see their God as one of war and consumption, even as do all other people. And this thing shall be a shame. But nevertheless, we beheld this because of this people. The Elohim shall begin the restoration of all things, and it will be soon thereafter, as if there was no war and no greed, having consumed all. For Elohim will restore all unto their proper order. This is the vision that we saw while in Seder, and we know the truthfulness of it, and we both bear witness of this thing. Yet it was that as we returned, there came runners from below, calling to us, and giving us warning of a hostile group having spotted us, and moving toward us. And being so filled with highballs as we were, we offered up a mighty prayer unto the Aiyanthi for our sakes, and the sakes of this people. So it was that we offered up our prayers, that there came a heavy rain, and it descended upon us greatly. And so great was this rain that the fields around our camp began to flood, so that none could find purchase there. And the tribes that came to hurt us at the call of that Fangal found that they could not cross the field to the hill, so great was the flooding. And I proclaimed that that hill was protected from the floods, insomuch that no damage nor harm came to any of the people of Aiziel. While the rains yet poured, we all gathered around the cider pit. We all gathered around the Seder pit, although the fire could not start. And we offered a mighty prayer of thanksgiving unto the Elohim, and sang praises unto the Aiyanthi all the night long. And when the morning came, and the rains abated, we saw that no warrior could harm us, and this was a great thing. And when the rains had abated, we stood waiting for the flooding to dry, and this took many days, insomuch that we began to run low on food. Yet in spite of the hunger, we knew that the miracle had been from the Aiyanthi, and we praised them. Let's see if I've got chapter 9 in me. That's not bad. Chapter 9. It came to pass that 2 or 3 weeks passed before the waters had dried sufficiently for us to take our leave. And we left upon this hill those stones of the Seder circle as an edifice of gratitude, that any passing may know the great miracle that had occurred. When those waters had dried and we could again begin our journey, more was the miracle, for the forest had been filled with nourishing foods of all kinds. with nuts and berries and leaves, all good for eating. And we feasted that night and danced in Seder for the many blessings which we had received. And we traveled again northwestward towards the land given us. And it was that Aziel had heard and seen our movements, and was angered, and caused another effort to slay us. Thus, after 6 or so weeks of travel, there came many tribes, people, all desiring the great reward which had been promised. Praise be unto the Aesir. Nevertheless, these tribesmen began to slaughter the animals of the forest, and to set fire to the trees, and they might cut us off and starve us, that we might become weak. And this was a hard thing, for we had long ago run out of provisions. And I say, praise unto the Elohim, for although we were overcome with great famine for the space of some time, yet there began to spring forth in abundance mushrooms that were not in season, and they came forth from the charred earth for our sustenance. And thus we knew that the Elohim were still with us. Those mushrooms were sweet to the taste and filled our bellies, insomuch that the famine departed, and we thus joyed one with another. Now it was about this time when my mother and her sister began their journey, for they were commanded in a dream to leave their place of work and return again to their homelands. And it was that our paths intersected, and we met by the grace of the Aesir. And there was much joying as we met, for despite our hardships, all were in good health. And my mother told me of the many things that had occurred while she and her sister had labored, having won only a few souls. Those few souls, however, were mighty and strong in Seder, having protected my mother and her sister from the roaming wild tribes round about. Now, as we heard the story of my mother and her sister, we began to be filled with much sorrow for the plight of the Scythians, insomuch that my now wife Imalo began to weep for my mother's story. Probably need a comma there. My wife Imalo began to weep, for my mother's story was a harrowing tale. I will not recount it here, for my aunt has written it in a different place on wood tablets. It suffices me to say that they endured much trauma and trial at the hands of the Scythians. Nevertheless, the Aesir were with them and delivered them without much harm. Thus, after the meeting, we set off once more in that northwesterly direction. I also must note that we were still living off those mushrooms which the Elohim had given us, for much of the forest had been consumed in so great a fire. And in this is that we are a type and shadow, for surely the Zeli also had nothing for sustenance, save that Minar, which Elohim had caused to fall from the sky as they journeyed 40 years. Just to be clear, this is talking about the children of Israel receiving manna in the wilderness. So this thing made my heart glad, for the Aesir was with us, and they were with the Ithzeli then. So I must sing a song of praise unto the Aesir, for we were in seemingly the very depths of hell, yet they sustained us and protected us. And so it was that we came to a great body of water, which was the North Sea, and here we set up camp, for the water was clear and without blemish, and the fires had not reached this far. Now a few weeks' journey westward would take us to the place of the children of Henan, and to the great wall. Nevertheless, that was not our journey, and so we made camp upon the shores of the great North Sea. Now our first order was not to construct any shelters, but to instead build a large Seder temple in praise to the eye. This temple was not as large as the temple wall in Aiyanthi, nor was it the covered temples to the south? No, it was a great ring of stones which served as a temple and a place of Seder. And this was the manner in which we constructed this house. It was open unto the air, with a pit for a large fire in the center. Circling around the pit of flames, we made a ring of stones, each one for a family. And the families that had come out of Scythia were numbered 67. And thus the number of circles was more, for many had wedded in the wilderness, bringing the total number to 84 families. Thus was the number of circles. Now these circles were placed in a spiral pattern, for thus does all energy flow. Now this was the manner of our temples, which are many in the land, and they are open and without wall, save for the great wall, which is itself a temple, and thus open to all the elements. And this we do, that we might feel all of the elements which the peacemaker has created for us. For how may a person come to learn of all that which has been created for them, save they shall endure it? For this reason we keep our temples open to the elements, for they all are great teachers unto us. And after the construction of this temple had been completed, we, being Imalo, Aziel, Farzid, my mother, her sister, Dio, who was he who opened the door to the chief's palace, and myself, gathered together that we might instruct the people in all the ways of the temple. Therefore Dio became fire keeper, and gathered 7 others from among the people to be fire keepers also. And Imalo and my mother and aunt taught those who were ready to construct a fire urim, for the ways of Seder had been blocked off for all but the elite in Scythia. Therefore it had been a rare and envied talent. However, those who were called Seder now numbered in the hundreds, yet I do not know the exact number. And it came to pass that all those Seder constructed fire urim, after the manner they were taught, and after the manner of the Spirit. And when all this I gathered in all the families, each according to their stature. Thus the eldest were near the center of the temple, and the youngest were placed in the further stones. And this is the manner we were taught, for our elders were soon to become Vioneer, and thus were the most respected among us. And now I pass the pen unto my beloved wife, Imalo, that she might recount the ceremony which we performed, and to record the primary teachings which were in our temples. Yet not all, for such a record would take up an exceeding amount of wood and stone, which we do not have the ability to hew. Therefore, the teachings will be kept to the primary and central teachings. So that was basically the second half of the Book of Wolfen. So, I think next time I do a stream, I may read from the Book of Imalo. I will say that this temple teaching is really something, and I would strongly recommend it. In the description for this stream, there's actually a link to where I started in the Book of Wolfen, Chapter 6, on sacredrecords.org. If you go there, you can kind of work your way through the table of contents and get to the Book of Imalo if you want to read it. But I really wanted to get out here and kind of share and do kind of the reading of this, because there's a lot of really interesting things. You know, if you go back and look, you know, it talks about the people of Lahai and other restorations that happen, and how even the descendants of Lahai end up getting overrun, just like the Aiyanthi get overrun, which has all happened. When we talk about European colonialism, that is what is being described there in Chapter 8 in their vision. So this is a great record. There's a lot of interesting things to think about, and I would strongly recommend anyone who's interested read it. But I think that's going to be all for tonight. Thanks for watching.